You bring forth the living from the dead, and the dead from the living, and you provide for whoever you will without limit. And blessed is he in whose hands is the dominion, and he has power over all things. He is the one who created death and life in order to test which of you is the best in deeds. And he is almighty, all-forgiving. It is late spring here in London, and the peonies are blooming, and the irises too, although they will flourish and fall quickly. Each creation of God has its own lifespan and its own way of living. And we, creations of God, each have our own lifespans and our own ways of being too. We trust in the wise plans of our Creator, and we know this life, our life in this world, is precious and always temporary. But it is a wonderful opportunity. It is our opportunity to cherish and grow all of the capacities that God gave us: physical, intellectual, emotional, social, and spiritual. Why did God create us with so much diversity and difference? It is because each one of us can only reflect a tiny part of the beauty of God, God's beauty and majesty. And that is why the more we come to know each other, the more we come to love each other, the closer we come to each other and to God. I see in all of you today a reflection of God's mercy. Love is greater than hate, and hate can be overcome. And for those of you who still have hate in your hearts, we want more for you. We want better for you. We want your heart to be unconstricted so that it can expand more and more like the hearts of the people here with love until you come to know the source of all love. Thank you for being here, lovely people.
Thank you for those beautiful words, Dr. Ingrid. I'd like to invite Yumna Sa'a, a LIS graduate and LMM board member, to share a hadith with us.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. عن أم سلمة أنها قالت: قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم: ما من مسلم تصيبه مصيبة فيقول ما أمره الله إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون اللهم أجرني في مصيبتي واخلف لي خيرا منها إلا أخلف الله له خيرا منها. Peace be upon you all. To Allah we belong, and to Allah we will return. Salama reported that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, said, no Muslim is afflicted with a calamity, but that he should say what Allah has commanded him. Indeed, to Allah we belong, and to Allah we will return. O Allah, reward me in my affliction and replace it with something better than it. If He does so, Allah will replace it with something better. Insha'Allah, healing can come out of this through the prayer Allah has guided us to say. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you for that beautiful reminder, Yumna. Once again, as always, folks, if you see something happening near you, take 2 steps back. Don't step forward, but take 2 steps back. Focus on passing out waters and take 2 steps away from anything that is happening. We've heard from our community leaders And this event is chiefly by and for our community, for our collective grief and for our collective support. But we're now going to shift slightly to hear from our political leadership as well. Because at the end of the day, this event happened because of pervasive and structural Islamophobia, which is perpetuated in a systematic manner. I would note here tonight, look around. We have in attendance today the leader of every major political party, including François Blanchet, leader of the Bloc Québécois, who led a motion in the House of Commons today condemning Islamophobia. This gives us a glimmer of hope that Islamophobia can rise above partisan lines to be something all parties firmly work against. The London Muslim Mosque, as you've heard, has called for an immediate national action summit on Islamophobia, and we hope this call will be heard by the leaders in attendance here tonight. To speak more on that and other matters is London's own Nawaz Tahir, Chair of Hikmah, London's Muslim anti-Islamophobia advocacy organization.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you all for coming tonight. Over the course of the last 24 hours, I've done a number of media interviews, and I thought I had answered every conceivable question about what had happened. But one of the last questions was from a foreign news agency. And that reporter asked me, why are we talking about this in Canada? You're supposed to be the most tolerant country in the world. My grandfather came to this country with one bag, and that's it. And through the love of the community, he was set up with a job. People helped him sign a lease, and then he brought my mother and 7 uncles and aunts. And it was for the pursuit of that Canadian dream, that promise of a better life for him and his family, his children, and generations to come. And so all of you, I ask you, you're here because you care, and I love every single one of you for being here and showing that you care. But we have a job together, and I need all of you to be ambassadors. Ambassadors of love, because love will conquer hate. Love is the disinfectant of that small minority in our country that want to divide us and pit us against each other. And to those who want to hold the Constitution, to those who want to hide behind freedom of expression, I ask you a simple question. What is the point of freedom of expression if a Canadian family does not have the freedom to walk on a sidewalk in this country without getting murdered? So I say to all of our political leaders that are here today, we are in a war against hate, and that war requires nonpartisanship, it requires cooperation, it requires united leadership and action. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nawaz. With that in mind, I'd like to invite our Prime Minister of Canada and Federal Liberal Party leader, Justin Trudeau, to say a few words.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting me to join you. To the loved ones and friends of the Afzal family, and tonight we are all friends of the Afzal family, I am so sorry for your loss. We hold you in our thoughts, just like we hold your precious 9-year-old boy in our hearts. This family touched so many around them. Salman was known for his warm heart. Madia was working on her PhD in engineering. She and her daughter had painted a mural at their mosque, and Yumna was an active member of her student community. Their grandmother cherished her family, and Fayez still has so much ahead of him. They were loved. I know they will be so deeply missed. To this community, which has made London stronger for generations, and to all Muslim Canadians, we are with you. There are no words that can ease the grief of having 3 generations murdered in their neighborhood. There are no words that can undo the pain and, yes, the anger of this community. There are no words that can fix the future of that little boy who has had his future taken away. But know this, you are not alone. All Canadians mourn with you and stand with you tonight and always. As Canadians, we make a pact with one another that we will look out for each other, take care of each other, respect each other. Well, for the Muslim Canadian community, that pact has been broken too many times. It was broken last fall in Etobicoke and in Quebec City, in far too many places across the country. Islamophobia is real. Racism is real. You should not have to face that hate in your communities, in your country. We can and we will act. We can and we will choose a better way. When someone hurts any of us, when someone targets any parent or child or grandparent, we must all stand together and say no. No to hatred and to Islamophobia. No to terror and to racism. Il n'y a pas de place pour la haine dans nos communautés. Et il n'y a pas de place pour l'islamophobie. This was an act of evil. But the light of the people here today, the light of the lives of the Afzal family, that will always outweigh the dark. Together, we will take action. Together, we will find our way forward. Thank you. May peace and blessings be upon you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I'd like to invite the Leader of the Conservative Party of Canada and Leader of the Opposition, Erin O'Toole, to speak.
Assalamu alaikum. Grief is what comes naturally at a moment like this. We grieve for the lives that were lost. We grieve for a family that will never return from a walk on a tranquil Sunday night. We grieve for a young boy in hospital whose life will never be the same. Cette communauté et notre pays sont en deuil. Nous pleurons ensemble après cette terrible attaque. The mosque we are at today is the second oldest mosque in Canada. Hear, hear. It is a reminder that the Muslim community in London helped build this great city. As Mr. Rahel said, you belong here because you made this city great. And today, this entire community and this entire country stands with you as we come to grips with this attack and the profound loss. Thousands today, many faith communities volunteering water efforts to show solidarity with you. But what comes after grief is commitment. We have to commit ourselves to working across party lines, with premiers, with mayors, with faith leaders, to end the kind of violence and hatred that took these lives. This was an attack on a family walking together in their community. The Afsul family was entitled to the same security, the same freedom from fear, and the same freedom to worship as every Canadian. And we have to commit ourselves to making sure it is a reality for all Canadians. The rise in Islamophobia and other forms of hate in this last year are the pandemic of darkness amid the COVID-19 pandemic. We know the Muslim community is stronger than this or any act of terrorism committed against you. We know the City of London is stronger than this or any act of terrorism. And I hope some in the Muslim community today find some solace in this passage from the Quran that I read in the House of Commons today. Good and evil are never equal. Repel evil with good and be patient. To a community that is in mourning and is fearful, please know that we will repel evil with goodness and stand courageously alongside you against intolerance. Let's transform our pain into resolve, our tears into perspiration in our joint effort to build a tolerant and inclusive Canada for this family and a 9-year-old who is looking to the nation to act. And inshallah, I hope we will rise to show him we will act.
Thank you. I'd like to invite the federal New Democratic Party leader Jagmeet Singh to say a few words.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. We have come today together in a really incredible, powerful showing of love and solidarity. Just to look around you and see how many people have come together. This is incredible. This is powerful. This is beautiful. Thank you. But we've come together for a heinous and horrible act of terror. An act of terror that stripped from us a beautiful family. But it also stripped something else. When the sister was speaking earlier, she mentioned that her nieces were asking, do I look too Muslim? We have children that are worried that they might look too Muslim if they wear a hijab. This act of terror was committed with the purpose of driving fear into the hearts of the Muslim community. So I want to say to my sisters that wear a hijab, to my brothers that wrap their head, we will not cower in fear. We will wear our turbans, our hijabs with pride, because we are proud of who we are. We will not let terror win. I also want to remind us all that this heinous act was an act of hate, and hate is like a fire. Once hate takes hold, it spreads, consuming everyone. So it is our collective responsibility to stand against that hate, to give it no air to breathe, no space to take hold. That is our collective responsibility, and one I ask all of you to take together. And what we need to do now is real action. After this act, how many more lives have to be taken before we act? How many more Muslim brothers and sisters have to lose their lives before real change is put in place? We need real action. I don't claim to have all the answers, but I put 3 things before you. 1, never again should any political leader ever use Islamophobia for political gain. That can never happen again. Never, ever. There is no space for that. Let us all agree. Secondly, the real and urgent threat to Canadians' lives, the real and urgent threat is coming from hate. It's coming from extremist right-wing ideology. It's coming from white supremacy. So let's put resources towards the real and urgent threat against Canadians. And finally, I know my time is up. I'll just wrap up with this last point. We need to tackle online hate. In each case of hate against Muslims, in each case where we saw violence against Muslims, in the Quebec shooting, in the killing of a brother in Toronto, in the violence against Muslim women in Edmonton, we know that this is happening from radicalization happening online. So we have to be serious about fighting hate online so that hate has no space to radicalize future violent actions. Thank you. I commit to you that I will be an ally in fighting for a future where families can walk the streets without fear. Muslim brothers and sisters can walk the streets without looking over their corners. No one should be afraid of who they are. Together we will stand and build a Canada where no one is afraid, where we all are celebrated for who we are. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Jagmeet. I'd like to invite Leader of the Green Party of Canada, Anna-Mee Paul, to speak.
Thank you very much for inviting me into your community. Thank you very much for allowing me to be with you during this time of profound grief. Once again, the community has been asked to bear the unbearable. Once again, all over the city, all over the country, parents are having to sit down with their children to explain to them why these things have happened. Once again, this community has been asked to be resilient when it should not have to be. When I was thinking about this family, when I was reading about the family that had been lost to us, something felt incredibly familiar about it. And what occurred to me is that this could have been my family. The parents are almost the same age as I am and my husband. The children are the same age as mine. This could have been my family. And I know that many people in Canada are thinking that today. And I'm here to say that it is your family. It is your family. When these things happen, they happen to all of us, and we must remember that. The message is clear. The hate is growing. The hate is growing, and we have got to stop it, and we all have to be in that together. Because even as this pandemic has brought out the best in our communities, it has also brought out the worst in some people. So what do we do? What do we do? I cannot see into the heart of the person who committed this act, but I know that often when these acts are committed, they are intended to strike fear, to cause pain, to inflict division amongst communities. What I say to that is, where there is fear, we will be defiant. We will speak out. Though for every single child who is questioning themselves and their place and their safety, we will speak out on their behalf, because the silence emboldens hate. Where there is pain, we will replace it with action. We will replace it with action to ensure that everyone can have safety in their identity, that they can walk out of the house as who they are, with no fear and without any concern. And where there is division, we will ensure that there is unity. We will ensure that those who seek to divide us will not succeed. Because at the end of the day, what we can do to remember those who have been lost is to say that hate will not win. And as we speak the names of the Afzal family, may their memories be a blessing, we will say that hate will not win. And as the leader of our party, I stand in solidarity, and I also promise you this, that my voice will be your voice. I am not there to impose my agenda. I am there to reflect what you tell me you need at this moment. That is my commitment to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anami. I'd now like to invite CEO of the National Council of Canadian Muslims, Mustafa Farooq, who has been a great support and resource to the community at this time, to say a few words.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm here because we lost a family member to terror. That's what this is. This is terror. And we keep losing our family. This cannot keep happening. The reality today is that I am angry. I am angry because I had to stand beside Ayman Darbali last year, rendered paraplegic because of the Quebec City mosque massacre. I am angry that last year I had to walk down to the IMO in Etobicoke and see the body of Muhammad Aslam Zavis. And I will remain angry, because how can we not be angry as long as the Canadian Muslim is the victim of unspeakable horrors of Islamophobic attacks that keep happening? We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, tired and ashamed, cannot be allowed to become police officers in Quebec under Bill 21. We cannot be satisfied as long as our national security agencies still seem more obsessed with us than those that are killing us. We will never be satisfied as long as white supremacist groups are allowed to walk, as they have walked in London before, with impunity and are not being dismantled. But my anger and the anger of thousands of Canadian Muslims will turn into positive action. An action of love, of dignity, of the need, of the way you came tonight to protect us, to protect our neighbors. Today, to the leaders here, to the Prime Minister, to the Premier, to ministers and opposition leaders, we need to see a national summit on Islamophobia on an emergency basis. Because our martyrs did not just fall last year, they didn't fall last week, they didn't fall last Sunday, they continue to fall, and we will continue to stand.
Thank you, Mustafa. I'd like to call upon Sahar Zimmo to do a recitation of hadith. And again, I'd like to remind everybody, please spread water around, pass it around, and try to take space. I know it's a hot and humid day. So Sahar, if you could, with hadith.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of the Almighty be upon each and every one of you. According to an authenticated hadith, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "Whoever amongst you sees evil, let him change it with his hand," meaning, let him take action. If he cannot, then with his tongue, meaning, let him speak out. And if he cannot, then with his heart, meaning, at least by hating it and believing that it is wrong. And that is the weakest of faith. So in light of this tragedy, let us take action against evil with whatever means we have accessible to us, either by direct action, words, or belief. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shower the deceased with mercy and grant the family patience and strength. Jazakum Allah khair. Thank you.